Welcome into the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That is not Wade Neely. That is David Wilson, sports editor of the Robertson County Connection, sitting in for Wade, who will be out for the next few days, taking care of some business. When he comes back, we'll have some big news for you. I guarantee you that. But in the meantime, again, David Wilson sitting in here on this Throwback Thursday. David, glad to have you, man. Appreciate you pitching in.
Yeah, glad to be called out of the bullpen once again. I know we did this, I think, last month, me filling in for Wade, a much better looking co-host for you this afternoon. So always happy to join you and get things going.
Without question, and a familiar face. You know, we come to you. We're based out of Columbia. Obviously, we are in the Lee Company studios of our respective homes today. But you know, David's a familiar face in and around Columbia as a former outfielder for the Columbia State Chargers down there. So multi-talented dude joining us here for the next couple of hours as we talk sports of local, regional, and national impact. So looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. As David said, we'll be going from preps to pros today. Later in the show, we will be visiting with intermediary somewhere between preps and pros. We'll have Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 coming on to talk a little SEC football, a couple of big matchups involving teams of area interest in the Southeastern Conference this weekend. We'll be checking in with Chris on that. In our next segment, it's Thursday. It's Coach's Corner. We will be joined by Franklin High School football coach Josh Atkins. The first-year Admirals coach already has that team with more victories than they had all of last year. Want to check in with him and see what the recipe has been to this point and what's next. Well, I'll tell you what's next. It's Williamson County's oldest rivalry as Franklin and Brentwood hook horns tomorrow night. So want to get his thoughts on that. This will be his first exposure to that, and looking forward to getting his thoughts again on that ball game and his team, his 4-2 team to this point. So we will, as Wade likes to say, we are contractually obligated to talk Braves, and we will. You know, I don't even know. David and I were texting back and forth last night. I don't even know that I'm necessarily upset that the 2024 season is over with.
I'm already ready for spring training 2025.
Yeah. I need to put up a countdown somewhere where I can readily see it, because the Atlanta Braves cannot be this injured 2 years in a row.
It's just so, I mean, I think Michael Harris tweeted it earlier. It's just a wild ride of a season, the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. And to think that with everything that they sustained, they still made the playoffs is kind of remarkable in itself. So
Absolutely.
just kind of how the way things went, I think, as all Braves fans can admit, that there wasn't a lot of expectations of them going very far in the playoffs with no Sale, no Schwellenbach, no Acuna, no Riley. I mean, the list goes on and on. Good grief.
A lot of no's for sure. We'll get more into that later in the show. Also, our final segment of the day will be the grab bag. We'll talk a little bit about tonight's Thursday night football matchup. After spending much time in the AFC East, Thursday night football swings its attention to the NFC South as it's the Buccaneers at Mercedes-Benz Stadium taking on the Falcons tonight. We'll talk a little bit about that one. Talk a little WNBA because another coach has lost their job, and the playoffs continue, and some other stuff as we tie up some loose ends in the final segment of the day with the grab bag. So that's what the show is going to look like this afternoon. Again, we're looking forward to bringing it to you. Hope you're looking forward to joining us. Oh, it's also Throwback Thursday. Again, we will be throwing it back at the top of the second hour to a recent conversation that we had with our NIL expert, JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. Looking forward to revisiting that as well. So, going to be a good show. Looking forward to it. Again, hope y'all are looking forward to it as well. And let's go ahead and get into it with yesterday's results and this weekend schedule, because we won't be with you tomorrow. We will have a best of Main Street Sports Today right here at this time tomorrow. So be sure and check that out. But yesterday's results, the weekend schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
Down is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The Blue Raider voice always wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915. That's 615-542-1915, or through his website at chip.net. Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
Volleyball scores from Wednesday. Wade and I mentioned that Cookeville, Oakland, Siegel, and Lebanon were kind of playing at the same place. So apparently they played a best of 3 instead of a best of 5 series. So Cookeville defeated Oakland 2-1, also defeated Siegel 2-1, and Siegel defeated Lebanon 2-1. Spring Hill in a district matchup swept Lincoln County 3-0. In girls soccer action yesterday, it was Stewart's Creek 7, Lebanon 0. Again, Major League Baseball wild card action. The Astros also got closed out yesterday, falling to the visiting Detroit Tigers 5-2. Again, it was San Diego 5, Atlanta 4 to finish up that wild card series. Major League Soccer action in the Geodis Park finale for the Nashville Soccer Club. It was DC United 4, Nashville 3. We'll talk more about that later in the show. And in NHL preseason action, the Predators put 6 on Carolina, winning that one by 2, 6-4 over in Raleigh.
To the world of high school football, Week 7 kicks off tonight. It'll start with Riverdale at Cane Ridge at 7 o'clock. Smyrna taking on East Nashville. I'll be at this one tonight. Be sure to tune in. Westmoreland traveling to Cross Plains to face East Robertson. Nolensville traveling to Hillsboro. Independence coming back up to Nashville to face John Overton. McGavick going to Laverne at 7 o'clock. Tullahoma making the trip to Lawrence County. Antioch and Mount Juliet, and a good one out in Wilson County. Siegel taking on area rival Oakland. Coffee County making the trip to the Murfreesboro area to face Rockvale. West Creek at Stewart's Creek. Hunters Lane at Stratford. Ravenwood at Summit, and Pearl-Cone at Whites Creek.
Want to mention real quick that Antioch Mount Juliet game has been pushed back to a 7:30 start so that Antioch coach Arcente Broom can take part in senior night over at Overton, where he's got a senior on the team. So nice little gesture on the part of the Mount Juliet program. We had Trey Perry on last week on Coach's Corner, and so yeah, Antioch Mount Juliet will actually be kicking off at 7:30 tonight. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock starts for the following. Pure Academy comes to Blackman. Franklin, as we mentioned, goes to Brentwood at 7. Innovation Academy, David can tell you a little bit about them, will be at Brentwood Academy for a 7 o'clock kick. Also, the Webb Feet travel to Christ Presbyterian Academy. Lipscomb Academy goes to Christian Brothers of Missouri tomorrow night. Columbia Academy is at Clarksville Academy. Clarksville is at Clarksville Northwest. Richland goes to Collinwood. Gallatin is at Cookeville. Marshall County travels to Creekwood. Donaldson Christian Academy hosts Mount Pleasant tomorrow night at 7. Franklin Road Academy is at Davidson. Rossview is at Dixon County. The Tennessee Heat goes to Eagleville. Loretto is at Hickman County. Ensworth hosting First Baptist Academy of Naples, Florida at 7. Providence Christian is at Friendship Christian. Giles County hosting Watertown down in the Brickyard. Centennial is at Glencliff. White House Heritage goes to Greenbrier. Mr. Wilson will be on hand for that one as well. Lewis County is at Harpeth. Springfield goes to Hendersonville. Henry County hosting Portland. Cheatham County is at Hickman County. Houston County goes to Hollow Rock Brewston. Joe Burns hosting Clay County. Clarksville Northeast goes to Kenwood. Liberty Creek is at Kirkwood. Montgomery Bell Academy goes east, taking on Knoxville Catholic. Lawson hosting Unscored Upon and Undefeated Page tomorrow night at 7. Father Ryan goes west, taking on Memphis University School. South Pittsburgh comes up to Murfreesboro, facing Middle Tennessee Christian. Fairview is at Montgomery Central. Franklin Grace goes to Mount Juliet Christian. Good Pasture is at Nashville Christian. Battleground Academy travels to Pope John Paul II. And in the Backyard Bowl, Columbia Central travels to Spring Hill. David, I'll let you pick up there.
Got you. White House at Station Camp on Friday at 7 o'clock. Blaine Keller will have all your coverage right there. Waverly checking on Summertown. Maplewood traveling up to Cheatham County to face Sycamore. Ezo Harding at the King's Academy. Zion Christian at Tri-Cities Christian. Green Hill taking on Warren County. Lebanon at Wilson Central. Volleyball action as well. Santa Fe at Camden Central tonight at 5 p.m. Summertown at Lewis County, Spring Hill at Coffee County, Hampshire at Collinwood, Lawrence County at Columbia, Smith County at Eagleville, Beach at Gallatin Central, Alabama, at Loretto at 6 o'clock, Siegel at Smyrna, Perry County at Zion Christian, Community at Colioca at 6:30, Marshall County at Murfreesboro Central Magnet at 6:30, Middle Tennessee Christian versus BGA, Franklin Road Academy at Providence Christian, and East Robertson at Station Camp.
In girls soccer action this evening, 5 o'clock, First Touch for Tullahoma at Harpeth Hall. Also at 5 o'clock, Marshall County is at Murfreesboro Central. At 6, Page goes to Brentwood. Also at 6, Lead Academy is at Franklin County. White House Heritage goes to Greenbrier at 6. Montgomery Central is at Kenwood. Dixon County travels to Kirkwood. Liberty Creek hosts Harpeth. Nashville Christian taking on visiting Fairview. Smyrna is at the Webb School. And this is going to be interesting because Columbia Academy is also at the Webb School. One of those is wrong. Merrill Hyde is at Christ Presbyterian Academy at 6:30. Also at 6:30, Henry County is at Clarksville Northeast. Ensworth goes to Father Ryan at 6:30. Brentwood Academy visits Pope John Paul II. Warren County hosts Spring Hill at 6:30. 7 o'clock starts for Gallatin at Hendersonville. Oakland at Siegel. Clarksville at West Creek. Rossview at Beach at 7:30. And we don't have a time for Middle Tennessee Christian and Webb School. Again, NFL action tonight. You can see it on Amazon Prime at 7:15. Tampa Bay plays at Atlanta. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And as we mentioned, the Nashville Soccer Club played its home finale last night. And we're in pretty good shape. They led this thing 3-1 with a pair of Alex Mule goals and one from Hani Mukhtar, along with a Mukhtar assist. Again, we're up 3-1 with about 15 minutes in regulation before DC United scored to get within one. And in extra time, Gabriel Pirani scored twice, not to be confused with Pirani scored twice in extra time, got the equalizer, and then got the game winner as DC United escapes with a 4-3 victory there. Tough loss for NSC as their postseason hopes dwindle with that one. They finish up on the road. I think they go to New York on Sunday and then finish at Chicago. But they, obviously they went through that stretch where they couldn't buy a point, couldn't win one, couldn't tie one, which only leaves losses. But they kind of revived themselves here of late. They went 2-0-1 over a 3-match stretch, and things were kind of looking up for BJ Callahan in that bunch. But this is a tough loss here. Again, they've got 2 games remaining, and their postseason hopes are on life support, to say the least, at this point. So needing some help on the road.
Yeah, definitely not how you want to end your home slate, that's for sure. But, Wade Neely is the resident soccer knowledge of this group. So
he is, yeah. But
we'll let him speak on that when he gets back.
Yeah, he will have plenty to say about it, I imagine. But yeah, that was a tough one. Like I said, the way that one went down again, it's 3-1 for the longest, and then all of a sudden they get 4 goals in the final, 15 minutes plus to pull it out of the fire. That's a tough way to lose one. So we will be keeping an eye on NSC over the weekend to see what they can do on the road again against the New York Red Bulls before they finish up in Chicago against the Fire. So let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it's Coach's Corner, as we will be visiting with Franklin football coach Josh Atkins. Stay tuned after the break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Throwback Thursday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with David Wilson. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are now swinging into Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party. And we're joined by first-year Franklin football coach Josh Atkins, whose Admirals are off to a 4-2 start. Now, let me give you a little perspective on that. The Admirals last year opened the season 0-8 before defeating Mount Juliet and Overton to finish up 2-8. In 2022, the Admirals were 0-10. So, Coach Adkins has come in, and I don't know if he's waved a magic wand or sprinkled some pixie dust or what exactly has taken place. But again, the Admirals 4-2 with a win over a really good Centennial team to open the season in overtime, and consecutive wins here against Independence, Nolensville, and Summit, scoring right at 30 points in each of those. So we welcome first-year Admirals coach Josh Adkins to Coach's Corner here on Main Street Sports Today. Coach, good afternoon.
Thank you, Jim, and good to be here.
Hey, appreciate you taking some time with us. Tell me, I mean, when you took this job and you came in here and you went through spring practice and you went through the off season, what were your expectations for this team, and how well have they reached or exceeded to this point?
You know, when I took the job, we kind of had a meeting, before spring practice with most of my staff assembled, and we just kind of talked about, our goal was to make the playoffs and what that looked like, what games were important. Those first 3 games we looked at, Centennial, FRA, and Page. We're like, we've got to try to find a win one of those games. Very fortunate, we practiced that fire drill in week 1 and converted on that 2-point conversion in overtime on the fire drill and the extra point to take that first that first win. Because FRA and Page, as you see, they're undefeated. Those teams are no joke. And so for us as a staff, like, we knew that first game was so important for these kids to show them that we could win those tough games. And we kind of took our lumps with those 2 games, and then we just told our guys, man, we just got to get better each day, each rep, and just believe in the process, right? You believe in yourselves, but you need to believe in your teammates. And you saw that in Independence. That game, there was a couple plays that could have went either way or there, and the defense could have got frustrated, and the offense could have just weltered. And I was like, hey man, we got to believe, and I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan, so I have a huge belief in my office when you walk in, and so it's just showing that the fruit of the labor of since January in the weight rooms, going through the offense, defense, and stuff, and just we're starting to click, and where I thought we could be at right now, sitting at 4-2.
Josh, it's not like you had an influx of talent or anything like that. I mean, these are basically the same kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kids. I think the biggest difference, though, for me, is that these guys a lot of them playing as sophomores, significant playing time as sophomores, if not starting. So when I knew the team that I was inheriting was going to be kind of, senior led, definitely some seniors, senior heavy in some positions. And it made my life a little bit easier because they were eager and hungry. You could tell, the frustration of their high school career. And I kind of told them early on what their legacy, how they want to leave this team behind, and what that looked like. And the seniors have definitely answered that bell.
Josh Adkins, first-year Franklin football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley. And Josh, you mentioned, those first 3 games on your schedule, Centennial, Franklin Road Academy, and Page. Page is undefeated. You guys lost to them at your place 14-0. That's the closest game that they have played to this point. I mean, I don't know if you take any special pride in that, but when you look through their schedule, I mean, 28, they haven't given up a point yet, but 28, 31, 42, 42, and 62 this past weekend against Glencliff. Again, y'all played them closer than anybody, and by a significant amount closer. I mean, what kind of confidence do you feel like your team took out of that, particularly as you continue to follow Page and what they're doing?
I mean, I'll go say this right now. I mean, I think, Coach Stewart's probably got the best chance to score on them. If they don't do it in the regular season, no one's going to do it. And I mean, they might get to the quarter, if not semifinals, before a team scores on that. That defense is very special. And a lot of people didn't know this, but that Page game, we didn't have our starting quarterback. He got a concussion late in the FRA game that kind of sidelined him for that week. We had a starting corner that was out. Sean Gacka, who was a 2-way starter for us, he only could play one side of the ball because he was nursing an injury. were kind of beat up and banged up, and it's not no excuse. Coach Rathbone has an unbelievable team and unbelievable coaches, and they executed. We actually had a situation where it was 7-0 late in the second quarter, right before halftime. It was 4th and 1, and we were able to. I thought we should be able to get at least 3 feet, right? Boy, I was wrong, but ended up 14-0 with all those injuries and just, but it showed that, hey, this is a top team in the state, and you guys hung with them for 4 quarters. And I said, man, just take your lumps, learn. I hate the word lose, but everybody loses. But I'm like, are you learning from your losses? And so I think the team they learned a lot from that. They realized they could compete with elite level talent. And so now once again we're sitting here 4-2 and have an unbelievable chance to play a game against the old rivals, as a lot of people tell me, with Brentwood.
Absolutely. I was going to get to that in just a second, but I want to ask you, again, with the Centennial win right off the bat, 4-2 right now, as a first-year coach, how important do you feel like it's been for you, just for these kids to see that what you're telling them works?
Yeah, I mean, and I told them, like, when I took the job, I was like, guys, you've got the talent, you got the looks, you've got the academics, you've got the football IQ, you got the strength and the speed. What you're lacking is mental toughness. When things get hard, from watching hours of film, hundreds of hours of film on these guys before we started in the spring, I was like, there'd always be a bad penalty or a lull in the offense that would essentially kind of seal their fate. And I was like, guys, like, and I told him, I can't wait for that first holding penalty, and I can't wait for that first defensive penalty that gives them a first down. I'm going to be so excited. And he looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, because when that happens, that very next play is going to define you of who you are, what you stand for. Are you going to wilt under pressure, right? Or are you going to say, all right, well, we're going to bow up, and we got to work it just a little bit harder to stop them on defense or to try to get that first down. And at first the kids thought I was a little bit crazy. And now they kind of see what I'm talking about. And there's been times, in these past couple games where, defense would give up a 3rd and long or a penalty that would give them a first down, or we would get a, false start or something of that nature. And I just look at them and say, hey man, next play. I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens. And they've kind of, answered that mantra, and it's definitely, we've definitely, like I said, have had success from it.
Coach, you mentioned how you had guys that returned that have played a lot of football for this group, in particular your quarterback, Brewer Wilson. He's been a 3-year starter for you guys, and he's been off to a phenomenal start through the first 6 games, 70 of 93, passing for 966 yards, 15 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. What has allowed him to be so successful this year for this group?
Or that first interception too was week 1. I think the first or second drive against Centennial, D lineman had a heck of a job and batted it, and the linebacker fell under for the pick. And so that's been his only really pick. He's really not thrown a, knock on wood, a bad ball yet. It's really just once I got hired, he and I kind of, because I work with the quarterbacks too, so we always would spend extra time after school and during lunch just going over just scheming what that looks like versus cover 2, cover 4, or 1 and 3, and who we're looking to get the ball. And it was, like I said, growing pains those first 3 games, but he had that 1 game out, and then so like I said, 5 games with 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. Like he's definitely flourished, and he finally sees the way that I look at the offense, and he knows that we have so many talented players that we're trying to get the ball to whoever we feel like has that favorable matchup.
Yeah, you and Mo kind of talked about building a culture for this group. Obviously, a group and a team that had not had a lot of winning the 2 years prior to you stepping in. How have you made your stamp on this program? Maybe some principles that you guys hang your hat on as we get into the middle of the year that you can hang your hat on as we get into the thick of region play.
So for me, the changing of the culture was the acronym that I, instituted with the guys when I took over, and it's SAIL, because we're the Admirals, of course. So, S is standard, right? The standard is standard. Like, we got guys that are trying to go early for fall break coming up here. And I'm like, guys, you know what the standard is. If you miss a practice, what the punishment's going to be. I was like, the standard is a standard. And, A is always. I'm like, there's always more you can do. You scored 100, you rushed for 100 yards. Go get 200, right? You got an A on a test, go get 2 A's. Like, there's always something that you can do to help yourself, but more importantly, help out the team. I, intensity. knowing when we can goof off and knowing when it's time to be that monster on the field. And they've kind of, know what that looks like with me too, because I'll cut up with them just as much as anybody else. And last but not least, love, man. You play this game with the guys to the left and right of you, you have to love them, right? You gotta, and if you love these guys and you're willing to move heaven and earth and put your body on the line, I told them it's like, it's special things, the things that you can do when you don't care who gets the credit. That's when teams become good to great. And I think we have a pretty good team right now, with this group of seniors and what we've done so far in the first half of the season.
You guys get to participate in a rivalry tomorrow night. I know it's not going to take much to get those guys fired up and ready to go to take on Brentwood. As you watch the film on Clint's team and everything that the challenges that they possess, kind of talk about the challenges and the approach you guys got to take going over there to face a really talented football team.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Finch, I tip my cap off to him. Coach Finch, that entire staff, man, they do an amazing job year after year with that program. Offensively, we look at their defense, and I looked at 300-plus plays defensively, and I think they had 2 MAs, missed assignments, or missed a line, I should say. They line up where they're supposed to be every time, right? Doesn't matter what formation or what that looks like. And so for me, defensively, when you do that, you put yourself in opportunity for the interception or the sack that would be there. Whereas if you go in the B gap and you're supposed to be in the A gap, that could have been a tackle for loss, stuff like that. Like they're very sound on defense. And offensively, talking with Coach Webb, the different formations, the different things they like to do, 2 quarterbacks they use. It's just, once again, trusting the guy left and right of you. And Coach Webb said best thing, don't go rogue, all right? Don't go try to do somebody else's job. If you're supposed to be here and you're supposed to cover the number 2 guy, go cover the number 2 guy and just trust the guy that's supposed to cover the number 1 or number 3 or whoever for them to do their job, because, more times than not, that's what we've been doing. And our result has been, phenomenal for us defensively. You look at the games, even with FRA, there was a couple special teams touchdowns there, as well as independence. And this team, so if you look at it outside of Centennial, Page has been the only one that scored 14 points defensively on those guys. And so their average is really well. They've been playing phenomenal defense. And I told them early on, just have patience with this offense. We're going to get it rolling. And they can breathe a little sigh of relief now. These last couple of weeks, we've kind of been able to put some points on the board.
Josh Adkins, first-year Franklin football coach, joining us here on Coach's Corner, presented by 10 Pin Alley. Coach, the schedule, with all due respect, I mean, again, you started with Centennial, Franklin Road, and Page. It's going to kind of ratchet back up a little bit with Brentwood, Ravenwood, and Mount Juliet all on the road here over the next 4 weeks. You've got an open date next Friday night for fall break, but how do you keep these guys, on that even keel between, we've done some really good stuff, but we're getting ready to get tested right here?
That's a great question, Mo. For me, I always use the analogy about at the beginning of every season, teams make that proverbial climb to be the mountaintop, to be the best team in the state. And, last week before Summit, I felt like we were kind of feeling a little too good, to be honest with you. And I told them, listen, guys, I know, we won 3 games and we've done this and that, don't settle. Don't be satisfied with the, I always talk about climbing the mountain. So I'm like, don't be satisfied with the warm fire and the honey and the locals are loving up on you and saying, hey man, you're a good team. I was like, you've got to keep your eyes fixed up for the climb, because as you climb higher on a mountain, I know from firsthand experience that air thins out really, really quick. And you really find out which team and which person is mentally, not just physically, but mentally tough to kind of handle adversity. And we saw, and then the warriors that we call ours coming now. We have to take care of business now. The matter of because we focus on whether we're playing against Brentwood, the Titans, or Alabama, we have to focus on Franklin. Focus on your assignment, and the big thing, like and wins and success will follow.
Josh, I'm gonna tell you, as a 1982 Franklin High School graduate, I never thought I'd see a day where a former Gallatin coach would be leading our football program. Just
Yeah.
kind of tell me a little bit about that transition, because I mean, there was a time when those were. I wouldn't necessarily call it a rivalry just because it went so heavily one way and it wasn't Franklin's.
Mhm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
that transition for you coming from a program that had the success of a Gallatin into this situation here, what's that been like for you individually?
It's been unbelievable. The successes that we had when I was at Gallatin as an assistant coach, and just the success at Gallatin in general, like you talked about Coach Calvin Short, and just his run through the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. That was kind of, I'm a history teacher, so looking at the history of football.
Mark, did we lose him?
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay. I hate that. Hopefully we can get him back. But yeah, again, Josh has done a phenomenal job in a short period of time since taking over the Franklin program following this past off season. And big challenge again tomorrow night when they go to Brentwood. I think Brentwood's only loss was to Brentwood Academy so far this season. So they're playing some really good ball. And then Ravenwood in 2 weeks, because again, they've got an open date next week, and then Ravenwood is undefeated, and then Mount Juliet, who Franklin surprised last year, and I feel quite confident that the Golden Bears are going to be geared up for revenge in that one. But we've got Coach Adkins back. Josh, appreciate you coming back to us, man. If you could just kind of pick up where you left off in terms of coming from Gallatin and what that meant to you in terms of what you were able to glean up there and how you've been able to put that to work here. Coach, you there? Josh, can you hear us? We can see him, but he can't hear us. Mark, maybe we ought to just go ahead and close this one out. Unfortunately, Josh is having some technical difficulties, so we're going to wrap that up, but appreciate him taking some time with us this afternoon and battling back, but can't hear him. Meanwhile, before we close out this segment here, we need to give out some of our weekly awards. Our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Outside of the military, there is no better team building enterprise than sports, and Custom Stone Handlers invites you to get in the game. So the Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week is the Culleoka volleyball team. Last week, Culleoka went 3-0 with road wins at Hampshire and at Forest, and a home win against Cannon County. Won those 3-1, 3-0, 3-0. So Lady Warrior has been pretty dominant on the hardwood this fall. And they are, again, our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Congratulations to them. Our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week is Columbia Academy senior Monte Baldwin against Ezel Harding last Thursday night. It was 19 carries, 167 yards, 4 touchdowns in the Bulldogs' 37-7 win on the road at Ezel Harding. So again, Columbia Academy senior Monte Baldwin is our Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia Athlete of the Week. Culleoka Volleyball is our Custom Stone Handlers In to Win Life Team of the Week. Congratulations to both of them. And that's going to close out Coach's Corner here, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party. When we return to the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll talk a little baseball. Stay tuned after this.
be a bad man. Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. October 3rd, 2010, with an 8-7 win over the NL East champion Phillies, the Braves earned the league's lone wildcard spot and snapped a 5-year postseason drought. Atlanta led 8-2 after 6 innings and held on as Billy Wagner picked up his 37th save. Matt Diaz had 3 of the Braves' 14 hits, with Brooks Conrad and Omar Infante each driving in a pair of runs. That was this day in Braves history.
Oh, the names in that lineup. We're spoiled nowadays, Mo. We complain a lot about them, but we're spoiled nowadays.
Yeah. I tell you what, I knew you would appreciate those names. Yeah.
And let me say, Billy Wagner needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, we've been talking a lot this week about folks who should be in the Hall of Fame, but Billy Wagner probably qualifies with what he's done what he did over the course of his career. It's crazy that he's got a kid playing Major League Baseball, by the way.
It's crazy to think that Craig Biggio's son has been in the league for a couple of years now. It's just, I don't know. Matt Holliday has a kid in the MLB.
Oh, yeah.
His youngest son is going to probably be the number 1 pick in next year's draft. I mean, that's kind of wild to me. Just means we're getting old.
Well, I don't know about you, but yeah, for sure here. Last night, David, everything was fine until it wasn't. I mean, Max has got 2 strikes and 2 outs on the number 9 hitter in the bottom of the 2nd inning. He goes yard to tie the game at 1, and then all hell breaks loose from there. They wound up getting another 4 runs, all with 2 outs. And it was all the runs they'd get, but heck, it was all they need as San Diego closed out the Braves 5-4 last night. Now, I mean, I think there's plenty to be taken from what the bullpen did once Max went out and the way that the offense, continued to chip away. And Michael Harris over the last bit had been, I guess, a beast. I think that's probably the biggest positive that the Braves can take out of this last few games. Michael Harris, the second, came to play.
Yeah, I sat there on the couch last night, and you can feel things in the postseason, and I think you can feel things when it's your own team that you're watching. When you saw the Padres have those dribblers that were not even above 75 miles per hour off the bat, 5 infield singles in a span of 2 innings, and you just knew that if the bases got loaded again for Machado, he was going to make Max pay that second time. So, and to be honest with you, you can't even be mad about Max. He had some bad ball, batted luck yesterday, and
well, I mean, and again, I think the one thing that kind of upsets me, I'm not sure. I'd like to kind of go back. Maybe I probably should go back and look at the pitch sequence to Higashioka, the catcher for the Padres. Yeah.
Good.
I mean, 2 strikes, 2 outs, number 9 hitter. You got to be able to finish him, and by not doing so, that's where everything else snowballed from. He takes the ball off of his derriere there, and I don't know. Do you feel like that was an impact on his performance?
ESPN, Carl Ravitch made that assumption or that question, and that happened in the first inning. So he got the first 2 batters of the second inning very quickly. I think he struck out Cronenworth, got Solano to ground out. So Higashioka, changed the inning. Max challenged him 1-2 count with the fastball. He didn't get it inside enough. And good hitters make pitchers pay in that scenario. And then you flip the lineup card over, and Luis Ariz is a professional hitter. And
really
a day of
is.
strikeouts, he puts the ball in play. And, he's one of the most talented hitters in the league. So he wallops the first pitch, single up the middle, and then here we go. So, I think it's unfortunate that Max's start, which could be his last, ended that way, just 2 innings pitched. Not the performance that you and we obviously wanted in that moment, but I don't think it all was his fault.
And again, when you look at this team and this season and everything that it's dealt with, it's kind of tough to be terribly upset with this outcome. And this wasn't a team that was going to do a whole lot of postseason damage. And and anybody that thought that they were was just deluding themselves. I mean, it's a wonder they got in the playoffs. And I'm not trying to blow smoke and anything like that. I just think that's the reality of it.
Someone made a joke, Mo, that at the beginning of the year, if someone said for your season on the line in the playoffs, if the 3 scheduled batters were going to be Jorge Soler, Ramon Laureano, and Gio Urshela, you would have been like, there's a lot wrong with this picture right here.
A whole lot. Yeah. And
3 guys that were not on the team to start the year. So, I think it was Justin Toscano of the AJC said it was kind of fitting that 3 replacement players, 3 guys were going to be the ones due up in the 9th of their season, because that's how the season was.
That is how the season was all year, man. All year, So, I mean, I don't know what anybody expected, but I'm certainly not shocked that the Braves season is over with. So, let's wrap some folks in bubble wrap and try to get to 25, and hopefully whatever voodoo doll that whoever's got, they will have lost by the time we get started next year, because this team, when healthy, is a scary team. Now, what it's going to look like, again, was that Max's last start?
I think it was.
I think so. And I have thought that Max was gone at the end of this year for a long time. Again, when they were extending everybody 2 or 3 years ago, when they extended Austin Riley and all of those other extensions that they got, Michael Harris, all of the extensions that they gave out, I thought Max Fried was conspicuously absent from that list. And I think this is what he wants. I think he wanted to get to free agency. I think he wants to get to free agency. I think he wants to get back to the West Coast. And I'll be shocked if it's not the Dodgers. Now, everybody says, well, the Dodgers have got every pitcher there is. They don't have room for him. I think you make room for what you feel like Max Fried is. So I'll be shocked. I'll be pleasantly shocked, but I'll be shocked if Max Fried is back in Atlanta next year.
Yeah, I mean, David O'Brien from The Athletic has already jumped on our question marks and said, there's some answers. This is a major offseason for the Braves. Max, he's going to maybe walk through free agency. Will Charlie Morton retire? Will Jesse Chavez retire? What are you going to do about the left field situation? You have Jorge Soler on the books for $16 million for the next 2 years. You have the Jared Kelenic issue where, he plays really good defense, might not be able to help you with the stick like Soler does. And then I think the most important question is, and you call him the whipping boy of the Braves, what are they going to do at the shortstop position? Orlando Arcia has left a lot to be desired the last 1.5 seasons. He was an all-star last year, but that was for the
Orlando
first half
Arcia has left a lot to be desired offensively. And part of the reason he's left a lot to be desired offensively is because we've been hurt. I think when this offensive lineup, as originally constructed, is on the field, you can survive with a guy who plays stellar defense, who can hit 15 or 20 home runs and strikes out probably more than he should, because he's not in a position where you've got to have it from him. But when you're playing with Gio Urshela on one side of him and Whit Merrifield on the other side of him, then he's got to produce. And when he doesn't, it's really glaring. So, I mean, I get it, but my next question is, if not Arcia, who?
I'll say this, and I'm going to play devil's advocate. Ozzy, the last couple of years, has not shown the ability to stay healthy for a full season. Ronald Acuna has had 2 ACL tears in the last 3 years. So I don't know if you can just walk into next year and say the Braves are going to stay completely healthy. Now, to the shortstop position, there's going to be some options in free agency. Ha-Seong Kim from the Padres, who is absent from their team right now. He's had season-ending surgery. There's your guy that has won a Gold Glove defensively for the defensive argument, and he has speed offensively and puts the ball in play a little better than Orlando does. He's about a 240, 250 hitter. I'll take that and the Gold Glove defense. Obviously, people are going to point to Willy Adames, who had a career year for the Brewers this year. He's going to cost a lot of money. And people are going to say, well, you could have paid Dansby Swanson that. But I think you have to assess all your options and look yourself in the mirror. If you're not looking at the shortstop position, that is a mistake by Alex Anthopoulos and the crew in the front office.
Well, and I've said often over the last few years, in AA I trust, and I'm sure he's looking at it. I'm sure he's looking at left field. I'm sure he's trying to figure out what the pitching situation is going to look like behind, a healthy Strider, a healthy Sale, a suddenly experienced Schwellenbach. Pitching.
You didn't even mention Lopez, so the pitching is good.
Yeah, the pitching is not the issue. So we will see what AA does here over this offseason. The Braves weren't the only team to bow out yesterday. Again, Detroit 3-1 win over Houston at Minute Maid Field, finishing up the Astros season. Kansas City closes out host Baltimore 1-0. And at 6:08 tonight, it'll be the Mets and the Brewers in the only Game 3 of the wild card round up at American Family Field in Milwaukee. Saturday, your ALDSs will be Detroit at Cleveland and Kansas City at the Yankees. You've got San Diego at the Dodgers in one of those, and then Philadelphia will host either the Mets or Milwaukee.
I think a
kinda
lot of
hoping it
people around the country are rooting for the Tigers now. I would classify them as America's team with the brand of baseball that they played. I think AJ Hinch for the Tigers said it's Tarek Skubal and Chaos is their pitching staff. So that would make a great rock band, apparently, Tarek and the Chaos. But, Skubal has been phenomenal. He's going to win the AL Cy Young. And so you think about that. You're walking into that DS. If he's pitching game one, that's almost an automatic win for the Tigers. So if you're the Guardians, good luck, because that seizes home field advantage right there and really all the momentum. I would not want to play Detroit right now.
And it'll be interesting to see how Cleveland goes at that. I mean, do you throw your number one against Skubal, or do you it kind of feels a little bit like a college baseball series? Maybe you hold your number one for game two just to get him matched up on somebody other than Skubal. So.
That's a really good question. Stephen Vogt's a first-year manager. We know him well. He's part of the 21 World Series team for the Braves. He did a phenomenal job with the Guardians in his first year. I mean, that's going to be a great pitching series. The Guardians have one of the best bullpens in MLB, so runs will be at a premium for that. But just, the Tigers are that team. They have nothing to lose. Nobody expected them to make the playoffs. I think they had a 1% chance to make it at the midway point of the year, and here they caught fire. And so I think that shows you, though, baseball is one of those sports. It's under 62 games. That's a long season, and it's all about who gets hot at the right time.
Absolutely. Our number one of Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, has come to a close. When we come back to the Lee Company studios to start hour number two, we will go to our Throwback Thursday segment with JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. So be sure and join us after this.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
We are now joined by JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. We wanted to reach out to JAMESETTA because news comes over the weekend that Tennessee commitment Faison Brandon's mom has sued the North Carolina State High School governing body over an NIL situation. Apparently, the Brandon family was approached about Faison signing some trading cards for potentially 7 digits. And that was disallowed by, I'm not sure the exact title. Well, she has filed a lawsuit against the State Board of Education and the Department of Public Instruction. Neither of those are actually the governing board for it. There it is, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association passed guidelines a year ago that would allow NIL, but that was overturned, I guess, by a Senate action later. And so, again, Faison Brandon's family, Rolanda Brandon, has brought suit in Wake County Superior Court over this. JAMESETTA, good afternoon, first of all.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, we can barely hear you for what that's worth, but did I lay that out about right? Did I miss anything?
You missed it, and so I'll give everybody some background because that will let them know why this is significant. So
okay.
It's Faison Brandon. He is the #1 commit in the class of 2026. He's a quarterback from North Carolina, and his mom, Rolanda Brandon, is suing 3 parties that I could find thus far: the state of North Carolina, the North Carolina State Board of Education, and the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. And so what people need to understand is this is a case where adults kind of are adult fights are getting in the way of children. So in 2023, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, well, first, let me say North Carolina has 2 different athletic associations. It has a high school athletic association that governs public schools and a few parochial schools. And then it has what's called the North Carolina Independent School Athletic Association, which sets the rules for private schools, which is a little bit different from here. So under normal circumstances, a high school association will make the rules for high school athletes. So the North Carolina High School Association, on the public side, their board of governors met and they said, hey, we are going to allow NIL for North Carolina high school public students. And it was supposed to go into effect July 1st of 2023. Well, the high school association has been feuding with someone, I can't find who, in the state government. And so a little bit after the high school association said its ruling, the state legislature in North Carolina had a bill for insurance, Senate Bill 452, and they added a rider to that bill. And that rider took the power to make rules for public school athletes only, not private school, just public school athletes, away from the High School Athletic Association, and gave it to the State Board of Education. And we're here because the State Board of Education very quickly said, we will not allow public high school students to do any type of NIL activities. So for the past year or so, North Carolina has had this 2-tiered system where if you were an athlete that went to a private school, you could run camps, you could sign autographs, you can be on training cards, you can do whatever NIL opportunities you like as long as they don't violate the published guidelines. But if you were in a public school, then you couldn't do anything at all. And so in this instance, a trading card company comes to the young man, offers him a deal that is, they're saying in the lawsuit, they're saying that this rule is going to cost him at least $1 million. That's what the lawsuit said. So it's a large amount of money. And so his attorney, to be fair, the family's attorney did reach out to the state, the director of the Board of Education several times before they filed the lawsuit. They never responded. And so yesterday we got the notice that she filed a lawsuit in court where she is suing so that public school athletes will have the opportunity to make money on their athletic name, image, and likeness. And it's really interesting because the State Board of Education responded and said, well, no, this was just temporary. We're going to make rules. The rules are just not going to they're just not going to come into play until 2025, 2026. Well, this young man, even though he's class of 26, he's made it honest. He's made it open that he's going to graduate early in December of 25. So he wouldn't benefit by the new rules when they take place in a year and a half.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much, really, JAMESETTA, for this to be considered by just a bystander as potentially discriminatory.
So I can say this. In certain states, there is not a good opinion of public schools in general. And if you remove the high profile athletes from public schools, then what do? You remove some of the funding, because some schools have very great programs and some of their funding comes from athletics. I would say it's really unfortunate that adults who should know better, who were elected, would say, no, we're not going to allow the athletic association to make rules for the athletes. That is just the height of stupidity to me.
Let me ask you, for the majority of our listeners who are in state, if Faison Brandon were at Columbia Central High School here in Columbia, would he be able to enter into this agreement with this trading card company?
Yes, because Tennessee, rightfully so, are, for good or for bad, whether you like the way that our NIL policy is written, it is written in such a way that allows all high school athletes to take advantage of their NIL opportunities, whether they're public or private school athletes.
Now, and that is another story for another day, because one, no NIL at the high school level is perfect anyway. Two, this one is particularly imperfect on a number of fronts, but at least this situation would be covered in it, and a young man in that situation would be able to take advantage of this. So I think
changing $1 million. $1 million is life changing. $100,000 for some people is life changing, but this is a life changing amount of money that this.
And to your point, James said, and this is the craziest part of this whole story, is another kid that we've just talked about committing to Tennessee, also in North Carolina, David Sanders Jr., is at a private school, and he has a full-blown website with all of his merch completely available for sale. So it's just wild to think about that we're talking about the public versus private. Quick plug, DavidSandersJrOfficial.com. I'm eyeballing a $40 hoodie, no big deal. But it's wild to think about that. To Mo's point, is it seems a little it's either complete oversight or at worst potentially discriminatory, it sounds like.
Discriminatory and for me retaliatory, because why would you take the decision-making ability for high school athletes away from the association that actually makes the rules for the coaches and other things like that. To me, that makes no sense. And to put it into a bill that was on its surface about insurance. It was really interesting the way in which this was done, but very discriminatory. And I want to know, like, for me, I'm like, there's always a backstory of why someone doesn't like someone somewhere. It was very specific. So if you're in the high school association in North Carolina on the public school side, you can't make rules about NIL. You can't make rules about transfers. You can't make rules about athletic eligibility. It's the craziest thing to me that they would deliberately create a two-tiered system. It's crazy to me.
Had the North Carolina High School Athletic Association not had this decision-making ability taken from them, do we know if Faison Brandon would be able to enter into this agreement?
Well, yes, they would have, because it's interesting. Literally, the association had a policy as of July 1st of 2023. They were ready to allow public school athletes to take advantage of their opportunities. It was the state that took action after they had already said, hey, this is what our policy is going to be.
And to your point, I mean, $1 million at any age is life-changing money. $1 million at that age. I mean, he's in the class of 26. I mean, he's a high school junior. And and it might be even more than that eventually, but it's potentially millions of dollars that he has no guarantee of ever recouping.
Oh, he won't. He won't.
No matter how much money he makes, he's missed out on this. So he's got no chance of recouping it. Yeah, like you said.
Just think about it. If you're the trading card company, if I can get you a package with his high school card, his college card, and his potentially NFL rookie card, that's a lot of money because it's a rarity. This is like, for trading card companies, it's a very new thing that they can package, but it is really interesting. Like, he won't recoup that money. What about autograph signings? Because I know somebody wants to talk to him after every game. What about getting paid for podcast appearances? I know people want to interview him because he's already committed. They want to talk about his journey. What about a camp that he can't run because he can't? What about selling merch? What about public appearances? I mean, there's so much money that he's going to lose out on in just the net. Well, he's already lost out on money because ideally he should have been able to start taking advantage of opportunities last year. So he's already lost a year of money. He's into losing his second year of revenue that he won't get back, potentially another 18 months.
And what I'm curious too is, does this have any impact on kind of establishing a market price or a floor for when he arrives to college? Now, does the NIL collective at the collegiate level say, well, we would have based it on what you had initially brought to the table based on your high school earnings, but because that doesn't exist, now we kind of come up with a different figure. I'm curious, does that impact anything?
It does, because there is no market value on a market that doesn't exist. If you go into not just the collective, but let's just say this young man actually goes further and goes to this has been my experience with my college athletes that have gone to the next level. Not only are you taking away his bargaining power at the collegiate level, but you're also taking away some of his bargaining power when he gets to the professional level as well, because the market, $1 million market at age 17, 18, it doesn't go lower. Like, they're impacting his earning opportunities from an endorsement perspective for the rest of his life.
And when you think about it like that, it's particularly frustrating, I guess.
Frustrating, and you can't say that you care about kids. You can't say you really care about families because statistically speaking, the kids who play football, basketball, where the money goes, they're overwhelmingly from lower income families. You're missing the opportunity to actually put in really great financial guidelines or offer financial education opportunities, and you're missing the opportunity to change their life. There's no guarantee he's going to make it in college, but there is a guarantee that he has an offer on the table right now that would have paid him $1 million. And you're taking the economic advancement of a family away. We're talking about generational wealth in this one deal, and we're not even talking about the full gamut of what he could earn. Just this one deal was 7 figures.
And when you frame it that way, JAMESETTA, the question becomes why? Because it's not money out of your pocket.
There has historically been in this country this tug between the bodies who do the labor and the power structure that wants to control the labor. And this is kind of indicative of that. It's really just saying there are people out there who say, well, high school athletics is pure. It's not governed by money, which is a lie. But if you like to believe that lie, then okay, I'll let you. But there's a group of people who are like, well, we're going to preserve the purity of high school sports as if we don't have, North Carolina basketball schools that are charging $70,000 a year. Or if IMG doesn't exist. Like, it's really interesting. And then some people feel like athletes should just be grateful for an education and they should, quote unquote, wait their turn. I didn't have this opportunity, so you shouldn't have this opportunity either.
It's really tough. And I mean, you would like to think that she's going to prevail in court at some point, but at what cost? Because again, if this is money and this is an opportunity that he's never going to be able to recoup, regardless of whether they win in court. But you know, what they can do is keep somebody else from having to deal with it, I guess. But as far as how this directly impacts Faison Brandon and his family, he's not going to get this opportunity back.
He won't. I haven't actually had an opportunity to review all of the lawsuit. I don't know if they're asking for damages. But again, that it really would kind of suck because if he asked for damages, he would probably get them, right? But it would come from the taxpayers in North Carolina instead of coming from this private company, which really sucks.
Which makes no sense.
No.
Somebody's got to pay somewhere if they're asking for damages.
Right. This is such a fascinating aspect of, and not just college athletics at this point.
Yep.
You know, this is such a fascinating aspect of athletics as we sit here in 2024. And man, I'm so happy that we've got a resource like JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom
Yes.
to kind of lean on this, because JAMESETTA's kind of been at the forefront of this whole evolution here. She got into this again, trying to help her son negotiate the recruiting odyssey of college athletics, and kind of morphed into, not that she's not an expert at that as well, but she is a self-trained expert on a lot of this stuff, and it's happening in real time. And that's why I'm such a fan and an admirer of JAMESETTA Cleveland.
Oh, well, thank you, Mo. I've been a fan since you were Nostradamus.
Well, I'm still Nostradamus, and you might be one of a few fans as far as that goes. But I mean, what else right now are you kind of, other than this situation, what are you eyeing from NIL issues?
I am really looking at who is being forward thinking when it comes to the world. I say post house, but I'm looking at the house settlement. I'm really looking at how many colleges and universities are hiring GMs at this point in time. I'm watching the conversations that they're having on how to limit athlete compensation, because at its core, we're talking college athletes truly are employees. That whole question is going to have to be answered. And I am watching how colleges and universities are already preparing and preparing their strategies and getting their staff in place so that they can limit athlete compensation before we even know that they can be compensated. And I'm also observing how little athletes and parents are really, really paying attention to the fact that there's this whole infrastructure being built to limit their economic opportunities before they even get them.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned GMs. We were talking here recently about Courtney Morgan down at the University of Alabama, who was kind of in a bidding war, or involved in a bidding war, basically between, I guess, Southern Cal and Alabama. He is currently at Alabama, and his compensation was raised to supposedly $800,000 a year. USC was offering $1.2 million, and Alabama had to up the ante. But we were trying to figure out what exactly it is that a general manager does, because I've not seen that title a lot at the collegiate level. I mean, I've seen recruiting director, but I hadn't seen general manager. So when you said that just now, take me through the responsibilities, I guess, of that title in 2024.
So this is just my opinion. It's really being fleshed out right now. College doesn't know. What they're really looking at, the only place really that has a general manager is the pros. And you're looking to see what do they do. I haven't personally been able to find a job description. I can say that from what I have observed, it's all about people management and mitigating risk to the university. And when I say risk to the university, for me, that is loss of athletes through transfers or through inappropriate behavior. So I can't really say that they all know what they're doing, because it's a very new position and everybody's doing it trial and error. The best example would be, even though people don't like to admit it, they're going to be drawing a lot from professional teams, because that's the only place where a GM position really exists.
Yeah, it's kind of the only parallel. JAMESETTA, I wanted to ask you, where does Tennessee rank statewide? Are we on that more progressive line of thinking in terms of NIL at the high school level, or is Tennessee on the other end of the spectrum? I'm just curious, just your flat out opinion there.
We're not progressive at all, in my opinion. What you have in here is people that are really doing low key. I say this all the time: legalized inducements or regular play. We really haven't. And it's super frustrating in a state that prides itself on entrepreneurship and being the place where businesses come to live and thrive and discover themselves. We do a really poor job with education at the high school level. We do a poor job of even helping coaches lean in to understand what the new world could be like and how they could model certain things with their high school athletes to change the economic opportunity for and futures of their families. We're common. We're not progressive.
At the same time, though, JAMESETTA, I mean, the fact that kids can run camps and do individual instruction and different things like that, I mean, that is a step in the right direction, is it not?
Absolutely. It is. It is. So here, I'll give you a freebie, guys. If you're listening to this is completely free. So for example, there are schools that pride themselves on doing summer camps. They will even have athletes come in to volunteer at those summer camps. For me, progressive would be bringing your student athletes in from day one so that they can see this is how you plan. This is what you need insurance for. This is how you think about facilities. This is how you plan for campers. This is how you get sponsors. This is how you make sure that you have an athletic trainer or EMT. Like the business of running a camp, you bring their bodies there to run it, but Progressive is teaching them how to do it so that no matter where they go, they have learned an actual skill. That's just my opinion. So love that you can do that. I really do.
What will it take for that to be advanced? Is that something that has to come? Is there an appointment or a person or a visionary that kind of advances that? Or is this something that we just kind of slowly, case by case, kind of legally wade our way through this?
So I would say, for me, advancement really takes visionaries, and they need to envision business. It's very difficult to envision what business can be if you're an employee. And I don't say that in a negative way.
I guess to put a finer point on this, I mean, do you make yourself available to administrators at the high school level, TSSAA personnel, that kind of thing? Because it sounds like that would be an entry point for what you're saying in terms of high school NIL education.
I would say I am around coaches all the time. I invite them to my classes or to have conversations with me. Even offer to be the vendor for certain coaches for education. But TSSAA has an official vendor that they actually already have a contract with. They have someone who comes in and they do everything online. We definitely don't like to step on toes. They've decided that they have a vendor, and this particular vendor is the vendor that they want to use.
Okay. Tell people how they can find you.
You can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram as at sports_mom_you. I'm also on Facebook as Sports Mom University. I have a business page there. And I do respond if you send me a message. I'm super available to parents. I run an online community of sports families who talk to me on a regular basis about these things. So you are more than welcome to find me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'll connect you to my online community.
JAMESETTA Cleveland, the Sports Mom U. We apologize for the technological issues that we had late in the conversation, but we appreciate so much you taking some time to visit with us this afternoon, and look forward to getting you back on again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back into Throwback Thursday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's David Wilson. Mark, where is that feedback coming from? Is it on my end? Nobody? Did you hear that? You can't tell? Okay. All right. It's been coming and going all show, and it's back. Anyway, we're going to battle through it because we now have a very patient Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 joining us to talk a little SEC football. Chris, really appreciate your patience as we were wrapping up that Throwback Thursday segment with JAMESETTA Cleveland of Sports Mom U. She's got some great stuff, but thank you for hanging out with us for a few minutes before we got you on. What are your – there's a lot of angst, I guess, around this UT-Arkansas game if you're a UT fan, just because Arkansas has been kind of a thorn in their side. I'm not sure that this is that Arkansas, and I'm not sure that this is that Tennessee. What's your read on this ball game this weekend? You're on mute, Chris.
And excuse the outburst from the dog in the background.
It happens.
On air. He's apparently very anxious about Arkansas.
Hey, makes sense.
And depending on when you watch Arkansas, I can get it because I don't know how much of the Oklahoma State game you watch, but they dominated that game on the road against a good team. And they just turned it over and made mistakes at bad times and all that. And when Taylor Green has got it going, they are really, really good. But the problem is Taylor Green doesn't always have it going. The accuracy has kind of come and gone. And, when it's gone, they're pretty ordinary. But at times you can see what makes Bobby Petrino so good when he's got the right guys. The offense is well designed. He's a really good athlete. I mean, he's probably 6'4", 6'5". He's, well built, not like KJ Jefferson, but he's like, like a small forward. He's just he's very and he moves like that too, right? And they got Jaquin Jackson, who I think is really good, but the receiving core is okay. I mean, at times it's looked really good, but then when that accuracy has come and gone, and by the way, even in the midst of that, that Auburn game, he throws a touchdown pass with his feet on the 35 after he's rolled out and hits his guy on the goal line. I mean, even in the midst of struggles, he's flashed stuff. So I get it, but it just hasn't been consistent enough.
as you look through their schedule, again, that Oklahoma State game is a game that they should have won, lost it by 8 in double OT. Lost to Texas A&M this past weekend. Tennessee's the best team they've seen, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, I know that battered ball syndrome is a thing. I get that. But defensively in particular, I mean, it feels like to me that maybe they've not seen a defense the caliber of Tennessee. And who'd have thought we'd be saying that about Tennessee?
I think that's the right take. They're really deep up front. James Pierce Jr. really hasn't had to be a standout so far. But on the other side, I don't know that they have played a great offense yet. NC State really hasn't been all that. And look to the right. Oklahoma's had all kinds of issues with injuries at receiver and line and quarterback inconsistency. So, one thing that we've kind of learned is you've seen some teams smash teams that just can't hang with them. And then when they play a real team, it's not gone well. Now, let me be clear. I think Tennessee's defense is good because they've been pretty good coming into Pierce had a track record. They had other guys on the defensive line that had a track record, and I lean on that. But at the same time, this will be the best offense they've played, even with warts and everything. And you've seen some teams that developed a little bit of false confidence beating up on lesser teams. Again, I don't think that's who they are, but you just don't know until they play. And so we're about to find out a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we are going to find out a little bit, particularly with it being on the road in Fayetteville, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that'll be I hate that Arkansas blew that game against Oklahoma State because this would really be a fun game and, might be a game day kind of thing. I mean, Arkansas would have something to play for, which isn't usually the case. And, I mean, that place would be rocking. But, you go out and get an early lead against them and give them something to cheer for, and you'll get there. I think Tennessee wins, but I can see a path where it's interesting.
Hey, Chris, we saw in the Oklahoma game that in the second half in particular, Josh Heupel really kind of throttled down that offense, focused on running the ball and not turning it over against a really good Oklahoma defense, as we saw. Do you think that's a familiar formula this week against Arkansas, where if Tennessee gets an early lead, they're going to play to that defense and just keep Nico in some safe spots where he's not turning the football over?
Yeah, I think you hit on something. And look, it's hard to know whether some of that was playing his alma mater, because they have kept the foot on the gas pedal against a lot of people. But at the same time, Oklahoma's a defense that could get after you and get to the pass rush. So they have 18 sacks this year. And, excuse me, the one thing I've said about Tennessee all along, you cannot afford to lose your quarterback. Now, I think they're plenty good, and they're good enough running the ball with those guys, and they've got guys on the edge. But, I mean, the drop from their 1 to 2, I don't know if anyone in the league's got a bigger drop-off than what they've got. And so you don't want to get that guy hurt. And so I think, to me, you've hit on something. I think if they're up big in that game, you've got the horses to run the ball. You've got the line to run the ball. Take your victory salted away and do it that way, because you can still put points on the board that way. But, I mean, I think that's important for a number of reasons.
Dylan Sampson's a heck of a closer, isn't he?
He really is. He's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for me, last thing on the Tennessee front, obviously defensively, they're going to have a challenge this week. Green is able to throw the football. He also is able to run it as well. He showed that against Auburn 2 weeks ago. How do you think that Tennessee defense is going to go about defending him, who's a dual-threat quarterback?
Well, a guy like that, you can't defend every play, right? The guys like that are the ones that give defensive coordinators nightmares, because you're going to have everybody covered on 3rd and 9, and he breaks free for 18 or something like that. And that's what you hope you don't get. I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I'm always going to want eyes on that guy to make sure he doesn't do that. And just the big plays. I think the question about Tennessee was the secondary, and I don't know that we really know what those guys are yet, because they haven't faced a big boy passing offense like you could see from Arkansas in spots. And again, you've seen the kids sling the ball 65 yards in the air for completion. So I think what you don't want is to walk out of that place if you're Tennessee and go, we got beat because we didn't contain Taylor Green on third downs and we let him bust a couple of big throws. Because when you were an underdog in Arkansas is rightfully an underdog in this game, but that's how you lose a game as a favorite, is letting stuff like that happen.
And again, for Tennessee fans who are particularly on edge over this game, Chris, one of the things that they're going to come back to is we've never defended a dual threat quarterback. We've never defended a running quarterback. They've always given us problems, and historically that has been the case. Now, not necessarily under Heupel has that been the case, but historically for Tennessee, mobile quarterbacks have given them problems. So, I guess really nothing that we've said here over the past 5 minutes or so has eased their concerns.
Well, I mean, look, I think they're the better team. They're a 13, 14-point favorite for a reason. I think they've got more answers on defense. But look, I mean, Alabama had trouble with the mobile quarterback last week. That's just life in college football. And name me a team right now that doesn't have trouble with the guy like that. And I'll wait for an answer because I think it's a short to non-existent list.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, who is now joining us here on Main Street Sports today, because speaking of Alabama, they're facing a mobile quarterback this weekend over at First Bank Stadium as they come and take on the Vanderbilt Commodores and Diego Pavia. Now, obviously Alabama coming in here number one following that win over Georgia the other night. Vanderbilt, as everybody in the country is saying, they're 2-2, but they could easily be 4-0. And people say that all the time, but it's really, really accurate right here.
Yeah.
They could easily be 4-0. Which Vanderbilt team do we see, and does it matter?
Well, they could also easily be 1-3. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, probably closer to 4-0. And look, that would be two really nice wins, Virginia Tech and Missouri, if they'd gotten them. Look, I think their path to victory or keeping it close is pretty narrow. And they've achieved some of it, right? They've turned the ball over once all year, which is amazing. But I think where they've got to get better, penalties, they are one of the most penalized teams in the country. Now, so is Alabama. So maybe that washes out a little bit. But it's kind of like when we talk about Arkansas, it's making big plays at right times. I think they've got to hold the blet a lot, which is going to be tough to do. And then they've got to finish drives where they get in territory to score. I mean, they let the field goal on the board that would have been a big difference maker last week. I don't think field goals beat Alabama this time, but you sure better not miss them. It's a tough ask. But they are, it's a really tough ask because I just don't know that they can get stops. But I think your best defense is keeping your offense on the field.
Chris, this is a two-part question on Alabama. First part is just talk about the ascension of Jalen Milroe. Obviously, at a point last year, he was benched in the South Florida game last year. And really, if you think about it right now, he could be the front runner for the Heisman Trophy. And then secondly, just talk about freshman Ryan Williams. I know we've heard all throughout social media and on TV that he's just 17 years old and the things that he's doing. But as a freshman, can you name someone that's had that impact right away as a freshman that you can remember of?
Oh, I'm to the last one first. I'm sure I could. I mean, I can't remember how he's. Alabama's had a few freshman receivers that have done that. But one more fun to watch, man. I don't know. I mean, he made two plays on Georgia last week. I was trying to write up in the description for an article like what he did on that game-winning touchdown pass. And I had to go back and not only watch it about a half dozen times, but I had to hit the pause button and then go, wait a minute, I hit play, and he just did what he did so quickly that I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, when you were making Georgia defensive backs look silly, you've done something. And that catch he had where he juggled about 8 times while he's spinning around. I mean, he's a freak. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. I think for Milroe, I don't watch everybody in the country. I keep most of my focus on the SEC, and I think Cam Ward's gonna have a case based on what he's done too. But I mean, name me an offensive player in the country that you're more scared of on the other side of the ball, and good luck with that. I think the Heisman's going to be interesting because I think they're going to have just down the road. Let's say Miami stays in the playoff chase, and I know I'm going off script here a little bit, but I think it's going to be interesting. That Cam Ward engineering the turnaround he's doing at Miami, a place that hasn't won big in a few years, and then you got Travis Hunter out in Boulder. And I mean, if you just want best football player in the country, how about a guy that's a stud on both sides of the ball and doesn't come off the field? I mean, that's like your Shohei Ohtani of college football when he's healthy both ways. I think the discussion is going to be really interesting. But man, they are both really special kids.
Don't overlook the running back at Boise either.
Well, him too, although I just can't see it. You're not playing week in and week out. I mean, a big guy in the Big 12, on Colorado isn't going to win it either, except that you've got something that nobody's doing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's a fair point too. And I hope we get to see him in the playoffs, by the way.
Last thing for me, Chris, Vanderbilt 2-2, as you mentioned, coming off the bye week. They didn't have any favors given to them with the SEC schedule that's in front of them. Do you see any path to bowl eligibility for them, or do you think that's kind of grasping at straws moving forward?
It's really tough. I mean, that Georgia State game is going to be the one that they look back on and just kick themselves for, because the minute they lost that game, it got really tough. I think that they're going to be 20-something point favorites over Ball State in a couple of weeks. You would presume they get that one, but you saw where presuming got them once. But just for argument's sake, let's give them that one. I think Auburn is one that looks more winnable than most of the other ones on the schedule, because Auburn could be in a free fall by that point, and you got a staff that won that game a year ago down there. So that's 4. South Carolina here is one that is probably one of the more winnable games, but they haven't won that game in forever. But to me, that probably depends on how healthy are Sellers and Rocket Sanders, which is a big if right now. So that's potentially 5. And Kentucky might have been 6. But, I mean, you look at the way they play Georgia and Ole Miss, and I'm not saying they can't win it, and they did win it last time they were up there. But, I mean, it's one of those, it's like, okay, maybe if things go their way, they can get this one and that one and that one. But the maybes as you go up the chain get a little tougher to defend, especially the Kentucky one, the way that defense is playing.
Chris Lee of Southeastern 14 joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Chris, before we let you go, want to ask you, Missouri and Texas A&M play this weekend, and Eli Drinkwitz, being Eli Drinkwitz, has made the statement on more than one occasion this week that his assistant director of on-campus recruiting has been barred from practice. Now, said assistant director of on-campus recruiting is Bria Reed, the daughter of former Tennessee State football coach Rod Reed and the sister of Texas A&M quarterback Marcel Reed. Were you unaware of this?
That's an awkward spot. I didn't know that till just now. That's a weird spot to be in. And I get it, but if you're going to be there, then maybe you unpack that one before the season, because you know the schedule.
Yeah, you do know the schedule. You don't necessarily know that Marcel is going to ascend into the role that he has ascended into for the Aggies, being 3-0 as their starter behind Connor Wigman. And I think they're an either or. Elko said this week that Wigman will be a game time decision, but Drinkwitz laid it out apparently on the Wednesday teleconference. If she wants to watch practice, she could probably be out there at the same time as the media, first five periods. Says it's created an interesting dynamic. At the end of the day, that's her brother and that's her blood, and we know that she's doing her job here, but family is always so important, and so we don't want her to be in any type of conflict of interest. In fact, I just saw her in the hallway just a second ago, but I'm not letting her in the copy room, and she's sure not going to have her eyes on the scouting report. And
Well,
it kind of feels like to me it feels like that's a little over the top, Chris. I mean, she knows what her job is,
yeah,
right?
that's my first blush too, and I think making it public, I don't know. I'm not sure why you do that, but on trying to see all sides of it, I'm also thinking, okay, what happens if they lose that game by a point, and Marcel Reed balls out, and somebody says, "Oh, by the way, did you know there was this connection on the Missouri staff?" No, I think coaches and programs always act in their self-interest, and I think that's, your first glance at it is probably what it is. But I guess you could also, if you wanted to, defend maybe that helps her, protects her against something that you don't know what's coming to. I don't know. That's a weird one. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. I mean, I feel like we've had. I'm sure if we sat here long enough, we could think of one where you had a conflict like that. That's an unusual way to handle it, though.
It struck me as unusual, but then again, it's also Drinkwitz, so
Yeah, he's a little unusual.
Yeah, say the least. Chris Lee of Southeastern 14 joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Chris, we appreciate you as always, and look forward to catching up with you here soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Mark, should we roll or should we break?
Just roll with it.
Roll with it. We are going to roll into the final segment here on Main Street Sports today, the grab bag, as Tampa Bay travels to Atlanta tonight for Thursday night football. And it should be interesting. Dave, you still there?
I'm here. I got you.
Oh, okay. As we swing from baseball into football in Atlanta, I mean, I'm sure that the fans down there will be excited about this one just to have something else to get into. And Atlanta coming off that big win against New Orleans over the weekend with a game-winning field goal. Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield rolling, downing Philadelphia on Sunday. According to this, Tampa Bay has won 7 of its last 10 against Atlanta. So this, again, shaping up to be interesting in an interesting division.
Yeah, do you think that Kirk Cousins and that Atlanta offense are still trying to figure things out? I don't think they have scored as many points, or the points have not come as easily as they have thought of just plugging in Kirk Cousins into Desmond Ritter's former spot there.
Yeah, you would think, and I think they would tell you that is a come up from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins, but I don't know that they are necessarily clicking the way they want to, but I think they see things moving in the right direction. Again, they're not necessarily producing points, but they got a big win against New Orleans to get to 2-2. I mean, whoever wins this thing is pretty much going to be at the top of the division. Tampa Bay coming in at 3-1. And again, the Falcons 2-2 tied with New Orleans. And this is basically, and even though Carolina is 1-3, this is basically a 3-team race in the NFC South, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay has looked really good. How good is their week 1 win over the Commanders look now with the way that Jaden Daniels has looked the last couple weeks? Now, just to show you the parity of the NFL, their loss, I mean, they got beat down against the Broncos 2 weeks ago at home. So that just shows you that the NFL, anybody can beat anybody in any given week. But Baker Mayfield might be Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold right now looking like the top MVP frontrunners, and Jaden Daniels also in the National Football League.
I was just getting ready to tell you, don't leave Daniels out, because there is talk of him being the best quarterback in the NFC right now, just from the way he's played through Washington's first 4 games. This is a very intriguing game tonight, I think. Buffalo, adding insult to injury after that tough loss that they took against Baltimore over the weekend, has lost edge rusher Von Miller for 4 games. The NFL finally handed down a sanction for his violation of the league's personal conduct policy from last November when it was alleged that he assaulted his girlfriend. So was charged on a 3rd-degree felony, booked, released on a $5,000 bond. Apparently, the case was closed in July, according to Miller, but the NFL has been investigating, and they don't mind saying, damn, what the law said, we're protecting the shield. So the 35-year-old Miller is sidelined for the next 4 weeks as Buffalo tries to figure some things out. They'll be figuring them out without Von Miller.
Yeah, and that's another piece on that defense that'll be missing. They'd missed Matt Milano last week against Baltimore, and King Henry did King Henry things. We'll get to him in a second, but Derrick Henry ran all over them, and so did Lamar Jackson. So,
of course, I guess if you got things to figure out, you'd rather figure them out from 3-1 than from a lot of other places. I mean, that was Buffalo's first loss, but man, it was a doozy, obviously. So, got some questions there, and again, they'll be answering those without Von Miller for the next little bit. You mentioned King Henry, 18 yards short of 10,000, 2 touchdowns short of 100 scrimmage touchdowns. I'm sorry, and if he does it in the next 2 games, he would be the quickest to score 100 touchdowns on offense. What do you think the odds are?
I think he's got that one pretty good. There was no way that Mike Vrabel, if he was coaching Derrick Henry last week, would have let him have 199 rush yards and not get him 200. I think that would have been 7 for his career, which would have gave him the all-time mark for most career 200-yard games. Come on now, John Harbaugh. You got to give him another carry, get him over 200. But, he is what he is. They were talking about all the money time that he invests in his body, his workout, his meal plan. He's a phenomenal athlete. I know a lot of Titans fans are sad to see him in the black and purple for Baltimore specifically, but he's a class act, a very, very good football player.
Absolutely, and I think as long as it's not doing any harm to the Titans, I think it's okay to enjoy what he's doing. And certainly that first run that he had the other night against Buffalo kind of got you on the edge of your seat a little bit. The WNBA semifinals continue tomorrow with both the 2-time defending champion Aces. Well, I'm sorry, the Aces are down 2-0. The Lynx and the Sun are tied at 1-1 going into Game 3 tomorrow night over in Connecticut. The Aces are going home down 0-2. No team has ever come back from an 0-2 deficit to win a best-of-5 series in WNBA history. So the Aces are kind of fighting against history, and according to their coach, they're kind of fighting against complacency. Basically, Becky Hammond kind of called them out after that Game 2 loss and just said that they were too busy being celebrities, and said they finally kind of gotten their edge back, but still that's kind of why they're in the position that they're in right now. We haven't had the edge all year. Now we found it, but the field was different from the jump, and that's why three-peating is hard. The whole league has been pissed off for the last 8 months, and my players are in commercials and this and that and being freaking celebrities, and you get distracted. That's why it's hard, because human nature is distracting. So keep an eye on the WNBA playoffs, among other things, here this weekend. We will have a best of show tomorrow here, because not only is Wade out of pocket, but I will be tomorrow as well. So again, Dave, thank you for sitting in with us, and we will see y'all next week right here 2:00 on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Talk to you soon.